Hello guys, today we are going to present the material about process-based CLT approaches and product-based CLT approaches. We are from group 2 that consists of Nuriza Fiskia Hasna, Dinar Safira, Uswatun Hasanah, Kriska Aulia Dwireza, and Hesti Intan Nurlaili. First, we are going to talk about process-based CLT approaches, content-based instruction, and task-based instruction.
Content-based instruction. Content refers to the information or subject matter that we learn or communicate through language rather than the language used to convey it. Of course, any language lesson involves content, whether it be a grammar lesson, a reading lesson, or any kind of lesson. Content of some sort have to be the focal which holds the lesson or the exercise together, but in traditional approaches to language teaching, content is selected after other decisions have been made. In other words, grammar, text, skills, function, and etc. are the starting point in planning the lesson or the course book, and after this, decision have been made. Content is selected. For example, a lesson may be planned around the present perfect tense. Content-based instruction is based on the following assumption about language learning. Content provides a coherent framework that can be used to link and develop all of the language skills. Content-based instruction can be used in many ways. First, as the framework for a unit work, content-based instruction need to be the framework for an entire curriculum but can be used in conjunction with any type of curriculum. For example, in a business communication course, a teacher may prepare a unit of work on the themes of sales and marketing. Next, as the guiding principle for an entire course, many university students in an EFL context are required to take 1 or 2 semesters of English in their first year at a university. Typically, a mainstream, multi-skilled course book is chosen as the basis for such a course, and the course covers the topics that occur in the book. Any topics that occur are simply incidental to practicing the four communicative language teaching today 29 skills, etc. of the course book. Next, as a course that prepares students for mainstreaming. Many courses for immigrant children in English-speaking countries are organized around a CBI framework. For example, non-English background children in school in Australia and New Zealand are usually offered an intensive language course to prepare them to follow the regular school curriculum with other children. Next, as the rationale for the use of English as a medium for teaching some school subject. A logical extension of the CBI philosophy is to teach some school subject entirely in English. For example, in Malaysia, where the medium of instruction in Bahasa Malaysia, a decision was recently taken to use English as the medium of instruction for math and science in primary school and also for some courses at the university level. Next, at the framework for commercial EFL or ESL materials. The series Cambridge English for School, Riddle John and Hicks 99 and 96 is the first EFL series in which content from across the curriculum provides the framework for the course. Next is issues in implementing a CBI approach. Issues in implementing a CBI approach content-based instruction raises a number of issues. A central issue is the extent to which focusing on content provides a sufficient basis for the development of the language skills. It has been pointed out, for example, that when English is used as the basis for teaching school objects, learners often bypass grammatical accuracy since their primary concern in mastery of content rather than development of accurate language use. Another issue concerned whether language teachers have the necessary subject matter expertise to teach specialized content areas such as marketing, medicine,
ecology, etc.
Task-based instruction. Task-based instruction, or TBI, also known as task-based teaching, is another methodology that can be regarded as developing from a focus on classroom processes. In the case of TBI, the claim is that language learning will result from creating the right kinds of interactional processes in the classroom, and the best way to create this is to use specially designed instructional tasks. Rather than employ a conventional syllabus, particularly a grammar-based one, advocates of TBI argue that grammar and other dimensions of communicative competence can be developed as a byproduct of engaging learners in interactive tasks. Task-based instruction, however, makes strong claims for the use of tasks and sees them as the primary unit to be used, both in planning teaching and also in classroom teaching.
Okay, next, the key characteristics of a task. First, it is something that learners do or carry out using their existing language resources. It has an outcome which is not simply linked to learning language. That language acquisition may occur as the learners carries out the task. It involves a focus on meaning. Then, in the case of tasks involving two or more learners, it calls upon the learner's use of communication strategies and interactional skills. From the point of view of task-based instruction, two kinds of tasks can usefully be distinguished. First, pedagogical tasks. Pedagogical tasks are specially designed classroom tasks that are intended to require the use of specific interactional strategies and may also require the use of specific types of language, such as skills, grammar, and vocabulary. For example, a task in which two learners have to try to find the number of the differences between two similar pictures. And the second is the real-world tasks. Real-world tasks are tasks that reflect real-world use of language and which might be considered a rehearsal for a real-world task. Next, 6 types of a task as the basis for task-based instruction. First, listing tasks. For example, students might have to make up a list of things they would pack if they were going on a beach vacation. Number 2, sorting and auditing. Students work in pairs and make up a list of the most important characteristics of an ideal vacation. Number 3, comparing. Students compare ADS for two different supermarkets. Number 4, problem solving. Students read a letter to an advice columnist and suggest a solution to the writer's problems. Number 5, sharing personal experience. Students discuss their reaction to an ethical or moral dilemma. And then number 6, creative tasks. Students prepare plans for redecorating a house. The principles of a PPP lesson or teaching format. PPP are from presentation, practice, and production. Presentation: the new grammar structure is presented, often by means of a conversation or short text. The teacher explains the new structure and checks students' comprehension of it. And then practice. Students practice using the new structure in a controlled context through drills or substitution exercises. And then production. Students practice using the new structure in a different context, often using their own content or information, in order to develop fluency with the new pattern. Advocates of task-based instruction reject this model on the basis that first, it doesn't work, and the second, it doesn't reflect current understanding of second language acquisition. With TBI or task-based instruction, the focus shifts to using tasks to create interaction and then building language awareness and language development around task performance. And how does this work in practice? So, Willis proposed the following sequence of activities. The first activities is pre-task activities. Pretest activities include introduction to topic and task. In this activity, teacher helps students to understand the theme and objectives of the task, and then students may do a pretest. Students can be given preparation time to think about how to do the task, and students can hear a recording of a parallel task being done. Then, if the task is passed on a text, students read a part of it. The next activity is task cycle. Task cycle, the first is task. The task is done by student in pairs or groups and gives students a chance to use whatever language they already have to express themselves and say whatever they want to say. Then teacher walks around and monitors. Teachers help students to formulate what they want to say. The emphasis is on spontaneous, exploratory talks and confidence building within the privacy of the small group. Then, success in achieving the goals of the task helps students' motivation. Okay, the second activity in task cycle is planning. Planning prepares for the next stage where students are asked to report briefly to the whole class how they did the task and what the outcome was. Then students draft and rehearse what they want to say or write. Teachers goes around to advise students on language. If the reports are in writing, teacher and encourage speed editing and use of dictionaries. The emphasis is on clarity, organization, and accuracy as appropriate for a public presentation. Then, individual students often take this chance to ask questions about specific language items. Then the third is report. Teacher asks some pairs to report briefly to the whole class so everyone can compare findings or begin a survey. Then teacher chairs means that comments on the content of their reports, represses perhaps, but gives no overt public correction. The next activity is language focus. This activity divided into two, analysis and practice. Analysis, teacher sets some language focus tasks. Teacher goes around to help. Students can ask individual questions. And in plenary, teacher then reviews the analysis, possibly writing relevant language up on the board in list form. And then students may make notes. And then practice. Teacher conducts practice activities as needed based on the language analysis already on the board or using examples from the text or transcript. Practice activities can include choral repetition of the phrases identified and classified, memory challenge, sentence completion set by one team for another, matching the past tense verb with the subject or object they had in the text, or dictionary reference with words from the text or transcript.
Task-based instruction can, in theory, be applied in a number of different ways in language teaching. First, as the sole framework for course planning and delivery. An approach was used in a program described by Prabhu 1987 in which a grammar-based curriculum was replaced by a task-based one in a state school system, albeit only for a short period. Second, as one component of a course, a test trend can also serve as one component of a course, where it would seek to develop general communication skills. This approach described by Beckler and Hahn 2002 in their study of a 12-week course for second-year Japanese university students. Third, as a technique, teachers who find the procedures outlined by Willis unrealistic and unmanageable over a long period could still use task work from time to time as one technique from their teaching repertoire. The next is issues in implementing a task-based approach. There are many issues arise in implementing a task-based approach, such as: first, there is little evidence that it works any more effectively than the PPP approach it seeks to replace. Second, criteria for selecting and sequencing tests are also problematic, as is the problem of language accuracy. Third, content issues are also of secondary importance in TBI, making it of little relevance to those concerned with CBI or mainstreaming. Fourth, the fact that TBI addresses classroom processes rather than learning outcomes is also an issue. Okay, now we go to the next chapter, product-based CLT approach, test-based instruction, and competency-based instruction. In this chapter, we will examine two approaches which focus more on the outcomes or products of learning as the starting point in course design than on classroom processes. Test-based instruction. Test-based instruction sees communicative competence as involving the mastery of different types of text. Text here is used in a special sense to refer to structured sequences of language that are used in specific contexts in specific ways. For example, in the course of a day, a speaker of English may use spoken English in many different ways, including the following: casual conversational exchange with a friend, conversational exchange with a stranger in an elevator, telephone call to arrange an appointment at a hair salon, an account to friends of an unusual experience, and discussion of a personal problem with a friend to seek advice. Okay, next is contents of a text-based syllabus. The core units of planning in TBI are the text types. These are identified through needs analysis and through the analysis of language as it is used in different settings. However, the syllabus also usually specifies other components of text such as grammar, vocabulary, topics, and function. The following text types are included in the certificates in spoken and written English, which are widely taught language qualification in Australia. First, exchanges, such as simple exchanges relating to information and goods and services, complex or problematic exchanges, and casual conversation. Second, forms, such as simple formatted text and complex formatted text. Third, procedures, such as instruction, procedures, and protocols. Fourth, information text, such as description, explanation, reports, directives, and text which combine one or more of these text types. Fifth, story text such as recounts and narratives. And the last is persuasive text, such as opinion text, exposition, and discussion. While text types in the syllabus in Singapore are procedures, explanations, exposition, factual recounts, personal recounts, information reports, narratives, and conversation and short functional text.
Implementing a text-based approach. Fish and Joyce, 1998, give the following description of how a text-based approach is implemented. Phase 1. Building the context. In this stage, students are introduced to the social context of an authentic model of the text type being studied. Explore the features of the general cultural context in which the text type is used and the social purposes the text type achieves. Then, explore the immediate context of situation by investigating the register of a model text which has been selected on the basis of the course objectives and learner need. Context building activities include presenting the context through pictures, audiovisual materials, excursions, field trips, and guest speakers. Establishing the social purpose through discussions or surveys. Cross-cultural activities such as comparing differences in the use of the text in two cultures. Comparing the model text with other texts of the same or a contrasting type. Phase 2. Modeling and deconstructing the text. In this stage, students investigate the structural patterns and language features of the model. Compare the model with other examples of the same text type. Fish and Joyce command that modeling and deconstruction are undertaken at both the whole text, clause, and expression levels. Phase 3. Joint construction of the text in this stage. Students begin to contribute to the construction of full examples of the text type. Joint construction activities include teacher questioning, discussing, and editing whole class construction, then scribing onto board or overhead transparency. Small group construction of text. Dictogloss. Dictogloss is a language teaching technique that is used to teach grammatical structures, in which students form small groups and summarize a target language text. Then, self-assessment and peer assessment activities. Phase 4. Independent construction of the text. In this stage, students work independently with the text. Learner performance are used for achievement assessment. Activities include listening tasks, such as comprehension activities in response to live or recorded material. Listening and speaking tasks, such as role plays, simulated or authentic dialogues. Then speaking tasks, such as spoken presentation to class, community organization, or workplace. Then reading tasks, sequencing pictures, numbering, ticking or underlining material on a worksheet, answering questions. Then writing tasks, which demand that students draft and present whole text. Phase 5. Linking to related text. In this stage, students investigate how what they have learned in this teaching or learning cycle can be related to other texts in the same or similar context. Future or past cycles of teaching and learning. Activities which link the text type to related texts include comparing the use of the text type across different fields, researching other text types used in the same field, role-playing what happens if the same text type is used by people with different roles and relationships. Competency-based instruction. The application of its principles to language teaching is called competency-based language teaching, or CBLT, an approach that has been widely used as the basis for the design of work-related and survival-oriented language teaching programs for adults. It seeks to teach students the basic skills they need in order to prepare them for situations they commonly encounter in everyday life. Problems with implementing a text-based approach. A text-based approach focuses on the products of learning rather than the processes involved. Critics point out that there is a danger that the approach becomes repetitive and boring over time, since the 5-phase cycle described above is applied to the teaching of all work skills.
Next, about feature in the implementation of CBLT programs in language teaching. The first, a focus on successful functioning in society. The goal is to enable students to become autonomous individuals capable of coping with the demands of the world. The second, a focus on life skills. Rather than teaching language in isolation, CBLT teaches language as a function of communication about concrete tasks. Students are taught just those language form or skills required by the situation in which they will function. These forms are normally determined by needs analysis. The third, task or performance-oriented instruction. What counts is what students can do as a result of instruction. The emphasis is on overt behavior rather than on knowledge or the ability to talk about language and skills. Number 4, modularized instruction. Language learning is broken down into meaningful chunks. Objectives are broken into narrowly focused sub-objectives so that both teachers and students can get a clear sense of progress. Number 5, outcomes are made explicit. Outcomes are public knowledge, known and agreed upon by both learner and teacher. They are specified in terms of behavioral objective so that the students know what behaviors are expected of them. Next, continuous and ongoing assessment. Students are pre-tested to determine what skills they lack and post-test after instruction on that skill. If they do not achieve the desired level of mastery, they continue to work on the objective and are retest. Demonstrate mastery of performance objective. Rather than the traditional paper and pencil test, assessment is based on the ability to demonstrate pre-specified behaviors. And the last, individualized student-centered instruction. In content, level and pace objectives are defined in terms of individual needs. Prior learning and achievement are taken into account in developing curricula. Instruction is not time-based. Students progress at their own rates and concentrate on just those areas in which they lack competence. Implementing a competency-based approach. The starting point in course planning is therefore an identification of the tasks the learner will need to carry out within a specific setting and the language demands of those tasks. The competency needed for successful task performance are then identified and used as the basis of course planning. Part of a specification of competency for job training course. The student will be able to identify different kinds of job using simple help wanted ads, describe personal work experience and skills, demonstrate ability to fill out a simple job application with assistance, produce required form of identification for employment, identify social security, income tax deduction, and tax form. Demonstrate understanding of employment expectation, rules, regulation, and safety. Demonstrate understanding of basic instruction and ask for clarification on the job. Demonstrate appropriate treatment of co-work. Problems with implementing a competency-based approach. Critics of CBLT have argued that this approach looks easier and neater than it is. They point out that analyzing situation into tasks and underlying competency is not always feasible or possible, and that often a little more than intuition is involved. They also suggest that this is a reductionist approach. Language learning is reduced to a set of lists and such things as thinking skills are ignored.
That's all for today. If you have any question, you can ask us. Thank you.